He just carved his way through the field, picking cars up for fun. Everyone else was struggling for grip, and there's Kevin Magnussen. He's known for his crashes, known for getting penalty points. He was P4, he was on the verge of a podium. Hello everyone, welcome to State Talks F1. So, as the 2024 year has ended, everyone is doing all sorts of compilations and wraps. F1 has also put together some of the classic moments of this season, of last season, I should say. I wanted to do something different to that, so I thought maybe put together some of the underrated moments of 2024. Now, these are moments and events that did not garner a lot of attention relative to the others in the context of the entire season. At that particular moment, it could have been a huge one. It would have felt a huge moment. But given the way this season has panned out, multiple race winners, varied podium sitters, four teams having 1-2 finishes, as epic as any season can get. So I've tried my best to pick performances that will go under the radar in the context of the entire season. Relative to the huge moments like Verstappen winning his championship in Vegas, his Brazil win, Leclerc's Monaco win, all of Lando Norris's wins, and then obviously McLaren's rise and their chaos in Hungary. So amid all these moments, there are few instances that caught my eye, and I've picked 5 of those with a few honorable mentions as well as some of the most underrated moments in F1 in 2024. So let's get into it, starting with number 5. Now at number 5, I've got Haas and Kevin Magnussen, their charge in the wet in Canada. Overall, the Canadian GP can be called as an underrated race of 2024. Like, considering the way the whole season panned out, the kind of races we saw, everyone will remember Monaco, Silverstone for obvious reasons, Miami as well, then Vegas, Hungary, Monza. But Canada produced some superb action, and it won't get enough attention amid all these other races at iconic venues that produced some of the popular winners like Leclerc, Hamilton, Norris. And amid that action in Canada, Kevin Magnussen was carving through the field. Haas put him on extreme wet tires in torrential conditions, and their gamble paid off. The Montreal track was drenched in rainwater, and Haas took that gamble of putting both Magnussen and Hulkenberg on the extreme wet tires. Nobody else dared to do that. Everyone thought the rain would ease off, the track would dry out, and the intermediates would become the better tire to be on. All of them were on inters, but Magnussen and Hulkenberg on the wet tires. K-Mag was on fire. He just carved his way through the field, picking cars up for fun, one after the other. Everyone else was struggling for grip, and there's Kevin Magnussen showing all his racecraft in the wet in Montreal. It was an iconic moment for me, and definitely something that doesn't get enough attention. Kevin Magnussen is known for his crashes, known for getting penalty points. He even served a race ban this season, in Baku of course. So this was a huge moment for Haas, for Magnussen, and it doesn't get enough mentions. Even Hulkenberg picked up places from P17. He was absolutely rapid, just like his teammate, and they were in the top 10. K-Mag got to 4th. He was P4. He was on the verge of a podium. Had they played out the strategy well, had it worked out in Haas's favor, the weather and how the strategy played out, how the pit stop played out, it was a sluggish one for Magnussen. It could have been something else. They could have scored double points. They could have got a podium as well. Who knows? Haas's race pace in 2024 improved a lot. Their tire management, the overall race pace and racecraft, they had the experience, Magnussen and Hulkenberg, to cling on to a good finish. Hulkenberg showed that throughout the season. It was all heavenly for Haas until the pit stop phase, obviously. And Magnussen showed his racecraft. He showed his skills in the wet weather. Like, even if it required extraordinary circumstances for Magnussen to steal the spotlight, it was worth mentioning. And it just shows how the Danish driver can do wonders if he's given the right car. Like finishing P2 on debut, that's what he's done, that's what Kevin Magnussen is capable of. Unfortunately, the career that he's had in the midfield, struggling and developing a reputation for crashing, it's a sad end to his career, but it's good that he's going to continue that in endurance racing. And this was definitely one of his finest moments in F1. Charging through the field in Canada in wet weather, where everyone else struggled for grip, K-Mag was the one who just absolutely set the benchmark. And Hulkenberg, obviously, as I said, he had been doing well throughout the season, scoring the chunk of points. Even he hasn't got a good car underneath him to get that podium or get the race wins that he deserves. Yes, obviously, he's also made mistakes in his career with the choices he made and hasn't capitalized on the cars that he's got. By now, Hulkenberg should have been a podium setter, but that's the reality. And Canada was their moment. Hulk and K-Mag, a class above the rest. Like they obviously stayed out and the gamble had worked, but then it started to dry out and intermediates were the quicker tire, and the race just went away from them. K-Mag, he lamented that he did not have anything to show for those early stellar opening laps, and Haas's dream vanished away as they had to pit for the intermediate tires. Like Magnussen fell back due to the slow pit stop, and even Hulkenberg, he stayed out even longer, and it just wasn't possible for him to keep pace with the intermediate runners. So, all in all, a great moment, but something that not many will remember. Firstly, not many talk about Haas, Hulkenberg, and Magnussen. So, amid that, if you have a moment like this, it may get some attention, but I don't think as much attention as a Norris win or a Piastri debut win or Hamilton winning in Silverstone, obviously. Now, moving up to number four, classic one, and this would easily not be an underrated moment, but it is for the personalities involved. Charles Leclerc and Oscar Piastri battling it out for the lead in Baku. Clean overtaking, relentless racing, and staunch defense. I call it their Battle of Baku, and it was one of the finest moments of the season for me. The reason it makes to this underrated list is clearly a bias towards Leclerc and Piastri. But yeah, jokes apart, it definitely, was one of the awesome moments. It was a battle to remember for ages. And again, the same thing, putting in context the other huge moments that happened later in the season, Leclerc versus Piastri in Azerbaijan sort of fades away. Like it was all going great for Leclerc. He started from pole in Baku for the fourth consecutive year, and it felt like this could be his year to finally convert that pole to a race win. It was the Baku curse on Charles Leclerc, but he couldn't do so. McLaren's pace was something supreme, and Oscar Piastri in that McLaren MCL 38, he was on another level. He maximized the car's pace and he just sent it down the inside at turn 1. Leclerc had just no answer to it. He said he could have defended a bit more harder, but that was game set and match for Piastri. Because the staunch defense that he put up after that for 30 odd laps, that was something else. He just did not give Leclerc a single chance to get back the lead. And I've talked about this at length in the Azerbaijan GP episode. The Battle of Baku alongside the shores of the Caspian Sea. Like it seemed significant, like Leclerc and Piastri, with the way McLaren and Ferrari got the top billing in the second half of the season. It felt like this would be a top drivers battle, and it was. But considering the other aspects, the other events that unfolded, Verstappen and Norris's battles in USA and Mexico, their title battle narrative. So amid all that, Oscar Piastri's glory in Baku and Budapest, it sort of goes under the radar. Budapest, Hungary still gets a lot of talking because of the chaos that McLaren unfolded, the team orders mess up and everything. But Baku definitely, Piastri's performance in Baku was just next level. That was the race I felt he just stamped his authority. on being a very equal teammate to Lando Norris. There was absolutely no doubt why McLaren were hesitant to deploy team orders. The way he overtook Norris in Monza, the way he overtook Norris in Hungary, and then this performance in Baku, his second ever Grand Prix win, it just cements his place as this future world champion, who has now got the dominant car underneath him, the fastest car in the field. If his Baku heroics are taken into context for the 2025 season, he's definitely going to be the dark horse for the World Championship. I've said this in the previous episode, and this moment overall, the battle for the lead between Leclerc and Piastri. Leclerc's contribution to that battle to keep attacking Piastri till the very end, till his tires dropped off, it was just relentless, and it deserved a shout out. Overall, I do feel that it gets an underrated status. There's a reason, obviously, I've ranked it number 4. Because, as I said, in the context of the entire season, a lot of more bigger events happened, with drivers like Verstappen, Norris, Hamilton stealing the headlines. Leclerc, obviously, two of his wins in Monaco and Monza, those had huge sentimental value. So, this battle in Azerbaijan between Piastri and Leclerc has a lot of sporting value, and that just doesn't get enough attention in today's F1. Today, F1 has all become about the entertainment, the emotional story behind it. This was a pure sporting battle between two of the brightest young talents in F1. But yeah, because their teams were contending for the championship, there was a lot of riding on this, on both drivers. So it sort of got a lot of attention, and it may not be called as underrated of a moment. That's why I ranked it number 4. But nevertheless, it was underrated. That's what I feel. Now at number 3, I've got George Russell and Max Verstappen's dead heat in Montreal. Again, the Canadian GP, an underrated race because it had so many memorable moments, but it still sort of faded away as the season progressed. As we saw a lot more epic races in Silverstone, in Monza, in Hungary, and Canada had this unique situation of deciding pole position by virtue of dead heat lap times. Verstappen and Russell set the exact same lap time. In Q3, in the final runs of Q3, George Russell and Max Verstappen set the exact same lap time, 1 minute 12 seconds. It was insane to see. Russell only got pole because he set the time first. But to see two drivers set the exact same lap time in qualifying in Q3, the last time it happened was in Jerez 1997. That race in Spain had 3 drivers: Michael Schumacher, Jack Villeneuve, and Heinz Harald Frentzen, to set the same lap time for pole position, 1:21.072. That was the lap time, similar to the third decimal. 3 drivers in Q3. It was extremely rare, and it was Villeneuve who got pole because he set the lap time first. That's the rule. Whoever sets the lap time first, in case of similar lap times, gets the pole position or gets classified higher. Usually, this happens in free practices. Several times, drivers set the exact same time. It's basically a passing event. But to see that at the height of qualifying, in the business end of the qualifying hour, it was amazing. George Russell, Max Verstappen. And it also signified Mercedes' comeback. After struggling in the initial half of the season, this was the race where they got upgrades and their car stabilized a bit. It was an outlier of a patch from Canada to Silverstone basically, but it was superb stuff from them in Canada. And Verstappen, he may have missed pole, but he ensured that he won the race. It was another one of his masterclass in the wet weather. Russell had the chance to win the race, Norris had the chance to win the race. With Verstappen being on the back foot, the Red Bull RB20 had started to struggle at this race, and Verstappen still got the win. McLaren fumbled, Russell and Mercedes fell back, while Verstappen aced it again. Like this was one of the several moments in 2024 where Verstappen proved why he's the world champion. Like this could easily be the top rank moment, but yeah, there were two more events that were a lot more mesmerizing and sort of will go under the radar as time passes by. Now at number two, a famous midfield team moment, Alpine getting a double podium in Brazil. Again, not something many would talk about looking back at the 2024 season. Alpine had a horrific start to their season. Underpower car, overweight, the aero efficiency was all over the place. They were at the back of the grid in Bahrain. Finishing last, they had no hopes of a recovery. There was structural chaos in the team. There were rumors of the team selling out. It was all over the place. And then they sort of started to turn things around. The way they took baby steps towards their revival, it was commendable. Getting upgrades in China, then in Austria, steadily trying to, get back into contention for points at least. And they were successful. From Kota onwards, which was rather late in the season, but as they say, it's never too late to start making progress. And at the USGP, we saw Gasly scoring a huge chunk of points. And from there on, the Frenchman just went on a tear. And he had Esteban Ocon for his company in Brazil. It was their finest moment of the season. Till the end of the year, they were just there in the fight for the points. Brazil obviously will be the cherry on top of their cake. A huge highlight moment for Alpine. A double podium. It was magical. Kind of opportunistic as well. Alpine striving hard to stay in the points. They stayed out, took that gamble on the old intermediate tires while everyone else pitted. And they had a huge reward, a huge payout for it, finishing second and third behind Verstappen. Like this is something I've talked about in detail in the Brazil GP episode. This could again easily not be an underrated moment, but something that people will sort of forget about is the emotional weight of Gasly and Ocon. Them reconciling with each other and sort of ending their stint on a good note, ending their stint as teammates together. Yes, Ocon had his moments with Gasly, crashing with him in Monaco. In their 2 years, they never really have been good teammates, good friends. Like their rivalry saga since their childhood, since their karting days, it's always been sort of lingering as a bitter pill between them. So it felt really good to see two friends from Normandy, France, to reconcile, settle their differences, and just enjoy this moment of getting a double podium for the French team. Both of them Frenchmen scoring a podium for Alpine together in the same race. And in a chaotic race like Brazil, it was easily the peak moment of their career. Of course, besides the race wins in Monza and Hungary, their bond is something that's evolved over the years with friends, then rivals, and now they're matured into these solid midfield F1 drivers. So they understand what's important rather than their rivalry. The team's benefit is more important, and they maximize that in Brazil. So hats off to Gasly and Ocon. And just for the sentimental value, because sentiment always overtakes the sporting logic. And of course, there was a lot of sporting weight as well in this moment. But the Alpine's double podium and Gasly and Ocon reconciling as the number two underrated moment for me. It has the perfect balance of sentiment and sporting logic, of sporting redemption. Like such stories are rare in F1. That's the reason I've ranked this moment so high. And I hope that Gasly and Ocon are often in the fight for podiums and wins. They're two very talented drivers, even if Ocon has got a reputation to crash. He's as talented as Gasly, so even if he's moving away from Alpine, fingers crossed he has a good future. And obviously, Gasly does well with Alpine, hopefully. Now, before I get to the number one moment, couple of honorable mentions. George Russell's disqualification really stole the moment in Belgium. And yes, it was talked about a lot. That's the reason I haven't put this moment in the top 5. But George Russell pulling off an excellent win in Belgium, at least on track, and that stint on the hard tires. 34 laps on the hard tires at a track where everyone else was going for a two-stop strategy, where the Spa-Francorchamps track, for a change, had a lot more tire degradation than usual, and that 34 lap stint from Russell to keep Hamilton at bay, it was something else. It was next level from George Russell, and it was a real shame that he got disqualified. Like, that disqualification got a lot of attention, and it just took the shine of a champion drive from Russell. That was worth every applause, and it deserved that win. But yeah, Russell losing that race by 1.5 kg, that's what I feel. He lost that race by 1.5 kg. It was a significant amount, yes, but that just reflects his potential that unless something extraordinary happens, George Russell isn't a driver who's gonna lose out on a race win. He can pull off such masterclass. So this was definitely worth mentioning. Russell's superb stint in Belgium. And secondly, Max Verstappen holding off Lando Norris in Imola by less than a second. Verstappen winning by less than a second from Lando Norris. And this was just 2 weeks after Lando Norris won in Miami. So the momentum was with McLaren. Red Bull was starting to struggle. This was the stretch of races, Imola, Monaco, Canada, where Red Bull and that RB20 had started to struggle. When Norris had a late charge in the race in Imola, he was chasing, taking time out of Verstappen's lead on every lap, and it felt like he could win that race. But Verstappen just held on. He held on, he clung on to the lead and won the race by 7/10 of a second. Super close. It was a tricky weekend for him, but he capped it off with a win, showing all his skill to drive that car home to take another race win. Now at number 1, I have put Carlos Sainz winning in Australia just 15 days after his surgery. Now this could be debatable, but so could this entire list of underrated moments. But I do feel that Sainz winning in Australia only 15 days after his appendicitis surgery, that was unreal stuff and as underrated as it could get. If Verstappen had dominated in that race, certainly the Australia win would get a lot more attention, even more than Sainz winning in Singapore in 2023. But yeah, the way the season has panned out, Sainz winning in Australia has got a bit blurred now, and it is definitely underrated because Leclerc winning in Monaco and Monza, as I said earlier, takes all the limelight for obvious reasons. It's fair as well. But Sainz pulling off that masterclass in Australia ahead of Leclerc recovering from appendicitis. It had been only 2 weeks since he had that surgery. Everyone saw him walking and limping in Jeddah. So 2 weeks later, to win a race like he did in Melbourne, just top class stuff. And obviously the off-track context for Sainz this season. He had an amazing season, getting 2 race wins, multiple podiums, signing off at Ferrari in style, but that was the thing. He was racing in his last season for Ferrari. He had to negotiate for months to get a seat for 2025, and that too at a lesser competitive team. No top teams like Red Bull or Mercedes were looking to invest in him. They had their reasons, obviously. So amid that search for a seat to secure his future, to get a win like he did in Australia, it's amazing and definitely should get more coverage. And it did back then, but in the context of the season, it is underrated as anything. In that condition, 2 weeks after his surgery, Carlos Sainz does not get enough attention, enough credit, enough hype. Going for it, sending it down the inside of Verstappen, who was, yes, struggling for his brakes, but pulling off an overtake on a world champion who's been dominant, has won the last 9 races. It needs execution, pinpoint execution, something that Lando Norris has often lacked. But Sainz, in both of his race wins this year, in Australia and in Mexico, he just nailed it, getting the race lead from Verstappen and then holding it on till the very end. Australia was the perfect weekend for Ferrari, a 1-2 finish, and that early in the season, that was the first indication that Ferrari is going to have a stellar year. Eventually, they fought for the championship, finishing 14 points of McLaren. And Australia was the start of it, it was the foundation. So, Sainz winning in Melbourne, yeah, that will be the most underrated moment. Because after that, we had Leclerc winning Monaco, Monza, Kota, Sainz again winning in Mexico, and sort of setting up the championship battle towards the end of that season. People have a recency bias, so that's the reason Australia will sort of be in the back of many people's minds and not come to the forefront when we talk about Sainz's wins in F1. With all that happened later on between Verstappen and Norris, their skirmishes in Kota in Mexico, then Hamilton winning in Silverstone, but McLaren just rising and rising, Piastri winning races, Norris and Piastri both on the podiums. Sainz's heroics in Australia of winning a race after coming back from surgery. It was a top drawer performance and just shows the determination of an F1 driver, of a driver like him who is fighting to secure his future in the sport. And he's done so, be it with Williams, but hope so that Sainz does well with them, gets them back into the fight for the podium maybe. That won't happen until 2026. But yes, Sainz's win in Australia and his entire season perhaps will go under the radar and Ferrari won't forget him. There is no doubt that Ferrari will cherish all the memories that they created with Sainz, the bond between Leclerc and Sainz, and the amount of success Sainz has brought them, the help that he has done to lay the foundation for Ferrari's upcoming success. If they're going to win the championship next season, in 25, 26, 27, Sainz's contributions will be a key part, a key cornerstone of that success. So yeah, Forza Ferrari, Forza Carlos Sainz, grazie a tutti mille. So yeah, those were the top 5 underrated moments for me from 2024. I wanted to record this at the end of the year, so I'm recording this about 5 days late. But yeah, nevertheless, it just has given us a glimpse that there are several moments that are happening in F1 which may not get enough attention because of the big billing moments that Hamilton, Leclerc, Verstappen, Norris, these top drivers, they often steal the spotlight. Their wins and podiums and the emotional moments in the sport sort of put these moments, including Magnussen, Haas, Alpine, on the back burner. So I had a lot of fun putting these moments together. That's it from my end in this episode. As the winter break goes on, I'll be bringing more such feature episodes. But yeah, until then, arigato and stay tuned.